Good afternoon, everyone. It's Kicking It with Nikki. I am reaching out to you guys as we normally do get together and have our moments of conversation. Some of you know my story, some of you may not. Um, Back in 2008, I was diagnosed with third stage breast cancer, and yeah, it really rocked my world. And that's part of the reason why we are doing this series, um, when health scares rock your world. Mine happened to be cancer, although I do understand through my own journey that um, health scares are health scares. So if yours is not cancer, mine happened to be breast cancer, it could be colon cancer, it could be any kind of cancer, throat cancer, it could be kidney failure, it could be a heart attack, it could be anything that throws you completely off your game, and you are now what we call in the twilight zone, where you've never been, you don't know how to respond, but you are going to have to respond. So I thought I would kind of give a brief outline of what I was facing and fill in some blanks. We are going to be launching a series of journals for those that are in the midst of high health crisis and are having issues with life-threatening health concerns. Just a quick synopsis. 2008, I was diagnosed with third stage breast cancer. It was anything that's considered at that level. Um, that means that it has left the primary site, which would have been on my left breast, and it had started to migrate into my lymph nodes. And most of us know that, we think of blood vessels, we think of, when we nick a vein or something like that, nick an artery, you see the different blood flows. Your lymphatic system operates kind of like when it comes to extra fluid, but it also has the ability to transport nutrients throughout the body. And so a big concern of mine at the time was because that's what the lymphatic system does, and the cancer had already spread into my lymph nodes based on from what we could see from the MRI and then tissue that was taken from the area that was biopsied. Um, Ultimately, the doctor decided I was going to have chemo first, and then I personally wanted the surgery to cut it out first, but they were like, "No, we're gonna shrink the tumors," and I didn't hear the S. I just heard tumor, and then we're going to go about removing it by surgical means. So after I don't know 6, 8 rounds of chemo, um, I returned to the doctor's office with no hair, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, no hair. And I've learned to become creative with when I want a new hairstyle. So most of the time when you see me, you don't see me with my own hair because my own hair, some of it came back, some of it didn't, most of it didn't. So we've learned to be flexible in that area. And we will have videos in regards to that as well. You'll get a chance to see what I look like when I'm putting my hair back together and some of the steps that I take. But this journey is not meant for just women. This journey is meant for anyone who's walking down this road. And as I said, we will be putting together a journal series as well as a planner series for those that are going through issues with their health. And it has a little more things to make note of because when you spend a lot of time going back and forth to the doctor, and there are a lot of things that it does bring to light that when I was going through the process, I wish I would have known. So we went through the chemo version, and then it was time for surgery. And I will say this, I had a fantastic team when it came to my surgery, when it came to my oncologist and those people at John Sauter in Des Moines, Iowa. The John Sauter Center was phenomenal. Nothing short of. Recognizes your weaknesses and recognizes that you're not going to be strong. And then a quick quirk to that, this location happened to also be somewhere that I was employed when I was diagnosed. So I not only was working at this location basically saved my life. And, most of you know that I'm a Christian, so I believe God uses his own means and methods. And he puts it in front of you that you need to go through that door. That is your way out. So, not to get too deep into that, I just want to say a shout out to John Sauter Center because of all the work that they did and how much they supported me before, during, and after my journey through cancer. Um, so, I do believe that as cancer patients or anyone that's going through a health crisis, you do have selective hearing where your doctors are talking to you. So it's always important to have someone come with you that you can kind of, bounce it back and forth off of them. So that it's like, did you hear that? Is that what you heard? And things like that. Those things are really important. And if your family's not available, it would be wise to have a friend or a church member, someone like that, who could go by and make notes and pay attention to what's being said. Um, so when we got to the part of making it through the chemo and then making it through the surgery, I kind of came through it thinking like, I made it. My oncologist, one of my heroes on the team, when we first started this journey, he asked me what was I looking for, and I said, I'm looking for you to treat me as if I was your wife. So whatever decisions that would be made that you would have suggested for your wife. And he agreed to that. So when we got to this juncture, it was time to tell me that he felt I needed to have radiation. And like anything in life, there is some part that comes to, break you down and put you down on your knees. And this was mine. Because my brain had wrapped itself around, if I could just get to this point, I made it. But it was really shocking for me to come to terms with understanding that, no, that's not how it works. And my doctor explained to me that there were three tumors, and that the largest one was 7 centimeters, which put me right there on the borderline of needing radiation. And I was not prepared for that. I was just like, this is going to go. I'm like, I do believe the enemy was telling me this is going to go on forever. They're telling you that this is the last step, and it's going to continue and continue and continue. But you do have to tell yourself backing up is not an option. If this is the way the Lord opened the door for you, you got to go. And as hard as it was for me to gather myself back together, because I really felt like I fell apart completely. And then it was time to get some super glue and try to put Humpty Dumpty back together again to scale this next wall called radiation. And I did a lot of praying. And in the middle of praying, I don't recommend anybody forego their doctor's suggestions. If you don't agree with your doctor, then most certainly go get a second or a third opinion if you need to. It's your life. But the monster, my name for cancer, made it clear that it was invasive. It wasn't fast moving, but it was certainly invasive. And my doctor said to me in the midst of my drowning and this is not going to end. He's like, you reminded me that, Nicole, you told me that if this was my wife, what suggestions would I make? He's like, I'm hooking you up with one of the best known radiologists, and I trust his advice. And so he's going to take a look at what he sees on your film, and if he still feels that you should go through with having radiation, then I'm going to advise you do that. And I can tell you guys, when you're faced with a horrible decision, there are no wrong decisions. You know, cancer is in the room. It's a monster. So whatever decisions you can put together that are going to combat this, then you should make every effort to save your life. Um, I would also say that what God put in front of me to do may not be what He puts in front of you to do. Keep that in mind. But always go to prayer. Always take it to Him in prayer. That's what the doctors are saying. Take it to Him in prayer. I took it to Him in prayer. I agreed to move forward. I did move forward. But one of the things that the Lord put in my spirit was while I was going through this, He wanted me to anoint my breast, the one that was being treated, the left one, with oil, and say the Lord's Prayer before every treatment. Now, I've been taking God with me throughout this situation, but this was specific. This was rub oil on your breast and continue to say the Lord's Prayer over you. But there was a point of contact. Okay, so I don't know how many treatments I had, but at some point it was enough that the doctor felt comfortable being able to say that he felt like he had burned out any microscopic versions of cancer. And the area that happened to be, I think, less than a centimeter away from my heart. And that's the way they had to shoot the beams. But my doctor was quite shocked when he came to the end of my time to be treated, and was shocked that my skin showed no indications of radiation, which means usually it gets red. You're talking about a lot of heat. It's a light source, but it creates a lot of heat. And so there was no reddening of my skin. And he kind of suggested, Nicole,